hope you guys are doing absolutely amazing. Welcome back to 30 and Thriving. I am Salome and I am joined by my co host Nyasha. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about becoming a high value woman. I'm sure you have heard that term high value woman a lot. So I'd like to ask Nyasha, what does it mean to become a high value woman? What do you think when you hear the term high value woman?
Hi, Queens. I am Nyasha. I think that's a very good question because we hear this word thrown around a lot. Um, when I think of high value, I think of diamonds,
Okay.
right? How they're valuable and um, how they're made, how
Right.
yeah, even with gold, how it's purified. So whenever I think of a high value woman, that's what comes into my mind. Like we've got these precious stones. That's me. I am the precious woman, and who I become is how I am made. The habits that I have, the goals that I envision for myself that lead to me becoming the person that I am. So if it's waking up at 5 a.m. to do a certain thing, so for
Right.
me, and that builds character. So for me, honestly, one word, if I hear high value, I think diamonds and gold.
Diamonds and the
Yeah.
value there. Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. And like, and you, like, what comes to mind?
Right. So personally, when I hear about high value women, I think about entering a space and adding value.
Mm-hmm.
So you are in that space, and whatever you're bringing, whatever influence you have in that space, in whatever capacity,
Yeah.
as a friend,
Mm-hmm.
as a colleague, in what you do, your profession, in whatever capacity, you're just adding value into that space. That's what a high value woman means to me. Now, there is a thing that I feel like we feel like high value woman is a finished product,
Yeah.
right? So for me, it's I when I think of a high value woman, I'm thinking about the Proverbs 31 woman.
Mm-hmm.
And when the writer was writing about that
Yeah.
Proverbs 31 woman,
Mm-hmm.
they were writing in future present tense, right? Like she wakes up and do
Yeah.
this, she does this, she does it's not like she did this and then she became a high value woman. So it's like
It's a
yeah, it's a
journey. Yeah.
journey, it's a continuous, like
Yeah.
you said,
Yes.
the habits,
Yeah.
what you do every day on
That
a
lead
daily
to be
basis.
you becoming
Yeah, for
better.
so for me, that's what a high value woman is. Yeah.
And I think for me, what I would actually say with regards to, being a high value woman is the fact that we think someone determines your value.
Right,
And I
right,
know,
right,
like,
right.
I have mentioned the issue of, diamonds and gold. There is always a market price for those
For
things. So
those
someone
things, yeah.
determines the value of gold, someone determines the value of diamonds. But one thing that I realized is becoming a high value woman is unique to you. You define,
What
yeah,
you
what value
value
means
you
to me.
bring,
It's
yes.
not because someone says that's what a high value woman should do. And I think that's one of the traps we fall into as women, because we're trying to conform to someone else's definition of a
Of
high
what,
value woman. So
yes,
someone might say, if you dress modestly,
your
that
high
makes you a high
value.
value woman. The way you articulate yourself when you're speaking, that makes you a high value woman. But honestly, I think it's unique to everyone. But for me, at the end of the day, everything would be based on biblical principles. What does God say about me as a woman? So that's
Right.
the basis of where I take my value from. And like you've just mentioned about like the Proverbs 31 woman, right? And it's not for everyone,
Is
right? And I
right.
remember someone telling me that, have you ever read that whole chapter when it talks about, the Proverbs 31 woman, she's working whilst her husband is sitting on the gates. would you want that for yourself? Like, you are the one who's working and your husband is
Husband sitting
seated
on
by the gates,
right.
so like sometimes it's not a one size fits
Feet
all for
all
everyone. You determine like what does high value mean
mean
to
to
you.
you.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if you're Christian like myself, then the basis or the foundation of your value should be based on
Based
God,
on
and
yeah.
in scripture.
I love that because it then comes back to identity.
Yeah.
It's funny how when you introduce yourself, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm introducing myself, I'm Salome.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next thing that comes to mind is
Mm-hmm.
what I do.
Yeah.
But then the question is, who am I? And like, not so many of us, or not so many people
Yeah.
can really answer that
That
question, like,
question.
who are you?
Yeah.
It's always about what you do, and as women we're fallen into that trap
Mm-hmm.
of just defining ourselves by what we do.
Yeah.
So being a high value,
Mm-hmm.
it's about identity as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you rightfully say that, yes, there is a person who then puts a value on that,
Mm-hmm.
but then the thing or the product itself
Yeah.
already carries a certain value. You just know that, let's say for example, you want to get into real estate.
Yeah.
Looking for a property in the south, in the west,
Mm-hmm.
in the east, and in the north, they are
They're
completely
completely
different price
different.
points,
Yeah.
right? So the north is obviously going to be top, and
Yeah. More pricey.
and more
North of
pricey because of
Samora.
the value, north of Samora,
Yeah.
the other side of Samora, because of the value it holds, because
Mm-hmm.
of the value it carries.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying this to say, when it comes to becoming a high value woman,
Mm-hmm.
it's not so much about what people say or
Mm-hmm.
what people are it's not through the lens of people, but it's all
Yeah.
about you and what value you hold, what
Mm-hmm.
value you carry. And when you enter a space,
Yeah.
what are you bringing into
To
that
that
space? What can
space.
people vouch for? Like, can people walk into rooms and say, I vouch for Nyasha. Nyasha
Yeah.
is fit for this position,
Because she has got this specific set skill that she brings to the
Exactly.
table.
Right.
And I think like being in your 30s,
Mhm.
that's the most disappointing thing, because um people say the moment you reach 30 you expire. So it's like beyond 30 as a woman, I was just not
But you
value.
expire in terms of what?
That's the thing.
Right.
Like, so
Yeah.
it's
Like,
like
what does that mean? Like, you expire in terms of what?
um I could give like maybe you're fertile, you're not
Your
fertile anymore, your fertility, yes, because apparently you're a doctor, you can tell us.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's settle this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it is true, the biological clock thing, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is, like, your fertility is heightened, or like the quality of your
Mm-hmm.
fertile eggs, and it's heightened. Like, the peak is like mid 20s
Mm-hmm.
and going into your 30s,
Yeah.
and then it starts to deteriorate.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a fact
Yeah.
that the biological clock is a thing,
Yeah.
and your fertility as well, it has its peak,
Yeah.
right? But then at the same time, with technology, with invention, remember there was actually one time we were having this conversation,
Yeah.
and be like, you know what, if it were up to us, all
Mm-hmm.
things being equal,
Mm-hmm.
we could freeze eggs,
Yeah.
if that's what you're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
All things being equal, you having the money, freezing your eggs is an option.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that you froze your eggs, and then when the time is right,
Then you can, but then you
you
see, now
take them.
that's the
But then
whole
it's also not
point,
forever.
because people are saying,
Mm.
why should I marry a 30-year-old when chances of us having a child are now limited? Like,
But
you don't have the money to freeze your
do you know,
eggs, or
what, the truth about that thing, when you say expire, do you think
Mm.
men are really talking about a woman having kids? Like, is it
Mhm.
really about that to men? Because I feel like the issue of kids,
Mhm.
it's affecting the women more.
More,
We
yeah.
being emotional beings, right?
Mhm.
It's affecting us more. It's us who are worried about, oh, I'm getting into my 30s, I can't
My
have kids.
biological
My
clock.
biology. The
Mm.
men, I feel like when men are talking about expiring, they're talking about different
Different
things.
things.
And um I want to find a better way of putting it, but men are talking about body count. They are talking
Mm.
about this is an expired product because it has been used.
Used and
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what,
Yeah.
the
And I think
mindset
that
of
that's
an,
how we are
yeah, of an
defining
average man.
ourselves, because we're saying, okay, how do I become a high value woman at this age when society is telling me that I don't have value at all? You know,
Right.
yeah. And that, as I was talking about, how diamonds are made and stuff. I'm not into mining by any sort, so don't quote me on this. But I know they go through a lot of refining, and
Right.
stuff like
Exactly.
that. And I realized that for you to get to that point where you have value, you have to have gone through a process, right? And like, I just want us to dive deep on some of the processes that we have taken to actually add value on ourselves, to boldly sit here and say we might not be perfect, but we are becoming high value women. Yeah.
Right.
And I think for me, the first thing has been, I would say, setting boundaries.
Okay.
You know,
That's a good one.
because when you set boundaries, it definitely just means people can't have their way with you. There are
Right.
certain things that you tolerate, there are certain things that you don't tolerate anymore, and that protects your peace of mind, that protects who gets into your life and who has access to your life. I know when I was in my 20s, I didn't even understand this concept of boundaries. And it doesn't even mean in relationships only, in like romantic relationships. It was even with friendships. I did not know when to tell a person no.
No, you're
You know,
right.
I would just, take it and take it. Even if someone wants the impossible from me, I would do it, because for me, I would honestly say I was a people pleaser, right? So if someone expects something of me, I would do it, and I did not have boundaries. And as I grew older, I realized that the moment I do not have these boundaries in my life, it makes people have their way with me, and it also makes me lose my value, because I'm
Right.
saying yes to things that might compromise my integrity, that might compromise who I am becoming. I would
Yes.
find myself in places where I'm not supposed to be,
To
just
be,
because
yeah,
I
just
cannot set a simple boundary. Like, you know
I
what?
can't be there.
Yes, if you're going out after 8 p.m., I can't be there,
Right, right,
And
right.
I had no, like, not memory, but I had no understanding of who I was becoming.
Becoming, right.
Because if you're becoming a high value woman, you must know who you are.
Exactly.
And when you know who you are, you set boundaries accordingly. Because I have mentioned, like, oh, I'm a woman empowerment enthusiast. I love empowering women. How do you get a mic and empower women and tell them, you know what, you can't stay up late when you have
You
spent
can't
your
even set those boundaries for
yes, for
yourself.
yourself. So
Yeah.
for me, boundaries have been like, a given. Yeah.
Right, right. Oh, that's a good one.
Hmm.
For me, I think I would want to go back a bit to
Hmm.
what makes something of a greater value. You gave a good example of diamonds,
Yeah.
and I'm also not into mining. I don't know much, but I know that for diamonds or any mineral to be purified, it has to go through the purification process. Takes a lot of like fire.
Fire.
There's something that that goes in there.
Hmm.
So I feel like for you to become of great value,
Yeah.
you also have to be somebody who is able to withstand
Hmm.
that fire.
Fire. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of a catapult.
Hmm.
Like, so if you pull a catapult, like
Hmm.
before you throw the stone like to your target, maybe it's a bed,
Yeah.
you first have to pull it. And
Um.
if the reckon had to speak, it will tell you Kuti, this process is very painful,
Painful,
it's
because a lot
excruciating
of
because of the
stretching.
pulling and the
Yeah.
stretching, which is the same as when you're becoming a person of
High
high value, or
value.
when something is about to become of great value.
Hmm.
It has to go through that process of
Stretching and
stretching, the
purification.
purification, whatever that is. But unfortunately, many of us are not ready or willing to go
We
through
do
that.
not want to be
Remember,
stretched.
in our first episode, we were talking about getting into 30s, our growing pains, the
Hmm.
things that we went through,
Yeah.
though we didn't get into much detail.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's those ugly things that we don't want to talk about, that are part
Hmm.
of our stories, that we shy away from, talking about, or we don't want to face those hard truths.
They make us who we are.
Yes, that's the purification process. I remember I was listening to a sermon by TD Jakes where he was talking about the elevator and the staircase, and he said, "Be thankful for the staircase."
Yeah.
When you get into an elevator, you just press the button, get in, you're there,
It's so
2 seconds.
easy. You'll
It's
never
easy, right?
appreciate
But the staircase now, you go through a lot of, you know, activity, you're
your
burning some
heart
fat,
rate is
your heart rate
off
is
the roof.
exactly. But also be thankful for those moments,
Yeah.
the moment you're going to take one step
Mhm.
one step after another,
Mhm.
that weight, those are part of what makes, somebody a high value. So what I'm saying is, I think one habit or one quality of
Mhm.
a high value woman is having that ability to adapt to situation,
I'm telling
because failure
you.
is going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
There's a Chinese guy who, the owner of Alibaba,
Yeah. Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
talking about your 20s. There's a part where he was talking about your 20s are for these, your 30s are for these, your 40s are
Mhm.
for this. And he said that in your 20s, they're for making mistakes.
Yeah.
You're going to make as many mistakes as I don't know.
Even
Yeah, you're
beyond
going
your
to fall.
20s,
So
but
if you
it's just
have
we
that
know better.
spirit or that
Mhm.
nature or that quality of
Mhm.
adapting to
Mhm.
things, then I feel like it makes you a high value person.
And I like
Right.
the analogy that you used of the catapult, because for me, I think I've experienced this firsthand. Like I've lost friends, if I may
Okay.
say,
Mm-hmm.
because of the life that I've chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And people would say, "Ah, you won't know, boy, wait, like you
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to have fun."
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind, I'm always thinking, if a girl that I'm always empowering sees me at this place, what would
Right.
she say?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm always asking myself, if someone sees me wearing this,
Mm-hmm.
will they respect me as much? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So also I feel like it's me being stretched, because there are certain things that bring us joy or satisfaction. You must be
Right.
willing to forego
Yeah, and get out
all
of
those
your
things,
comfort
yes, and
zone.
say
Yeah.
this is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I know my purpose, I know who I'm becoming a high value woman. Because I feel like sometimes being a high value woman is not only about you, if there's a purpose upon your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it will also go back to the issue of self-awareness. If you know yourself, if you know your purpose, now you know, okay, so this is my purpose, so I have to hold myself in this regard.
Right.
If people knew the jobs that they would be doing now when they were younger, there are certain things that they could never have done in their 20s,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if someone told you that in the next 20 years you're going to become a president, there are certain places, there are certain people, there are certain environments that you'd never want to be associated with. So I feel like being stretched in different directions and being able to adapt and being able to set those boundaries is like the roadmap to you becoming a
A
high
high value.
value
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I totally agree with what you're
Hmm.
saying. But I would also want to say, give yourself some grace,
Yeah.
because some of the places,
Hmm. Yeah.
like where you have been,
Yeah.
they have also been part of the
The
person
journey. Yeah.
you are
They
becoming.
mold you.
Yes. So it's not all like the things that have,
Hmm.
you have gone through, or you look
Hmm.
at them and you with regret per
Yeah.
se. I think look from a perspective of learning. 'Cause, okay,
Oh,
I've been there. What?
reflection. Yeah.
Yeah, because okay, you want to empower a woman,
Hmm.
right? You want to empower a girl who is walking through the path ya wakambofamba nayo,
Hmm.
you were yourself.
Yeah.
But how are you going to get or connect to her if
Hmm.
you can't relate?
Relate. Yeah.
So you know how it's easier.
Hmm.
I always enjoy when I watch my brothers watching
Hmm.
soccer.
Yeah.
You know how I know the guys are going to come at me. I don't know nothing about
So,
soccer, but I always enjoy when you know vanopinda nemoyo be like, daya kika bola.
and
It's
they've
always
never kicked a ball in their
it's
entire
always
life.
nice when you're looking at things from
Hmm.
the other side. But
Yeah.
when you were
Yeah.
economic
Inside.
situation,
Hmm.
you're yeah, it's always nicer when you're looking at things from the other side, and
Hmm.
you're you give opinions. Oh, you should
Mhm.
do this. Hey, daya katanga tenga motors, no
Mhm.
tenga imba. You know, all those things. Because these are
And if
the
I'm gonna
conversations.
stand Murod disclaimer.
Exactly. Because these are the things that are we hear in our 30s. Like
Yeah.
people telling you, like, it's like everybody has an opinion on your life.
On your
Hey, you should do
life,
this, you
this,
should do
yeah.
that, you should do that. But then if you've never been in my shoes,
Then
then
you will
it's
never
going to be
understand. Yeah.
hard for you to
Mhm.
kundipa like concrete advice, tambirika, because you can't relate.
Yeah.
You can't relate.
I think that's very true. And I would agree. I'm also hard on myself. Like, and I think there are other people that might also, resonate with what I'm saying. Like for me, every day that I'm doing something, I always ask myself, like, the person that I'm called to inspire, would they be proud of me,
Right.
of what I'm doing?
Or would
And
they learn something
would
from,
they learn something? I think that's also a good question to ask myself. So besides just asking, would they be proud? Like, what would they learn from it? So I think honestly, you have mentioned something that's very, very true, and maybe I would have to like learn to give myself grace.
Grace, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that when you're becoming a high value woman, give yourself grace. Like it's not you're not going to get it right the first time. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be some stretching, but it doesn't mean that you are on the wrong path. It just means you are passing through maybe
A lot of things.
yeah,
Yeah,
you have
it's
to
just like
cross.
how wine is made. You
Yes,
get the grapes, and then they go through a process of crushing.
pressing
So
exactly.
think of those mistakes as the crushing process.
Yeah.
Think of those failures. Even there's failure that probably was within your control. You could have avoided that,
Yeah,
but you didn't.
you didn't.
Then there's also that failure where it was beyond your control. So all of that, it's a
Yeah,
crushing process.
it's a crushing
And it makes
process.
wine. It makes wine what it is. And people enjoy wine. So
Enjoy wine.
yeah, so I think we tend to give a lot of pressure on ourselves on looking at the finished product.
But we
But the
don't the
in between,
process.
yes. Like I remember when I was talking about the stakers,
Yeah.
the one step after the another,
It is
when you take a deep
rhythm.
breath, the sweating, they all build
They
up
serve
into
a
this. Yeah,
purpose.
they
Yeah.
do serve a purpose. Yeah.
I think it actually brings me to my next point that I wanted to make, that like, becoming a high value woman is all about growth. It's about learning. What people don't realize is knowledge is power.
Right.
If you are to ever become a high value woman, you need to be someone who is learned.
Right.
And people might think that I'm talking about your formal
Your
education.
profession,
Yeah.
and
No,
things
but
like
like
that.
being constantly
Read.
open to learning
Learning.
new information. I remember there was this one guy that I did. He was obsessed with learning. He was always either on YouTube, on, like on these platforms, just trying to understand how these things work. And these were things that were outside his profession.
Yeah.
And I really admired that, because I feel like as a high value woman, you must be able to get in a room where people are talking about politics and you have an opinion.
Exactly.
Where people are talking about
any topic,
any
and you have
topic,
something
and
to
you have
say.
right. Like you don't even have any idea about the national budget. You have no idea about nothing. You're just
So I think
living.
I think we need to read books on mining. I think we need to visit a mine
I'm telling
and
you.
learn something about mining.
About mining.
Yeah.
You must. You need to have an opinion. Like on it. Like whenever I'm talking to young girls, I always say the statement that knowledge is power. No one can abuse you if you've got knowledge. No one can take advantage of you if you have got knowledge.
Right.
And you are going to find yourselves in rooms where opportunities are present. And if you are knowledgeable enough, the opportunities are up for grabs, because you have the knowledge at your fingertips. Don't be that person and not the zvekuverenga zvinobowa. Like, no, man. If you're going to be a high value woman,
I think a quote I came across that was saying that ignorance is expensive or something like that.
Honestly, let me tell you, I have an example. Oh my God. So I had gone to this certain building, so I had parked there. Apparently, I was not supposed to park there, and I got clamped. I was fuming. And I said, there was no sign that you must not park here and whatnot. And then I went to the man who was responsible for like to unclamp
You're
me.
right.
Yeah. And he said the moment you entered the building, there was a signpost that was written that you can't just park anywhere, claim zone, whatever. And I said I did not see
See
that.
that,
Yeah, you should make it a big billboard or whatever. And he said ignorance is not an excuse. I paid that fine so that they could
right.
unclamp me.
Ignorance is it's always
Yeah.
expensive.
And it's not an excuse. Don't say this
Mhm.
happened to me because I did not know.
Right.
Especially in this digital era where, information is at our fingertips. Some people choose to, be on TikTok watching information that doesn't add value,
Right,
basically,
exactly.
at the expense of,
Just yeah, and it doesn't take 30 minutes, it doesn't
yeah.
take 40 minutes, it doesn't take
And I've realized,
yeah.
like, for me, I like short form
Mhm.
content because I have like a short attention span. So
Mm.
instead of me watching maybe a 40-minute documentary or video on YouTube, I would rather go on TikTok. Whilst I'm on TikTok, don't just go on those, random
Right.
videos.
Mm-hmm.
Find videos that are educative. People are
Mm-hmm.
using, so many ways to educate you. If that's your way of learning, by all means do that. But don't, bottle yourself up in, not
Right. Yeah.
being ignorant.
Because there's always a price to pay
There
for
is,
ignorance.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, for me, another habit
Mm-hmm.
of a high value woman is, I would say, being organized.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In whatever you do, it may look
Mm-hmm.
different for everyone, but
Mm-hmm.
like it's about how people just do things like
Mm-hmm.
randomly. You just wake
Randomly.
up, you don't even have a plan, you
Yeah.
just like, whatever. Okay, so there's beauty in living like that as
Mm-hmm.
well, but not all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's beauty in organizing.
Just
it's
like,
it's just
honestly,
whether
you
it's your
must just be
space, it's your
organized.
day,
Yeah.
because what organizing does is it doesn't give everyone access to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the D&D feature on on the
On
phone, right?
I hate
You hate it,
it.
I like it. Try to call me after 8 p.m.
My friend does
I'm
that all the
unreachable.
time. I'm like, why are you doing that?
Exactly. So because there's if you don't intentionally set
Yeah.
time, specific time to do certain things,
Mm-hmm.
then everyone and everything is just going to have access
Access
to
to
you
you.
anytime, anyhow. So it's you need to set. I think it then goes back to boundaries.
Yeah.
So, and I think being organized, it's
Yeah.
one of the great habits of a
Mm-hmm.
high value woman. I don't know what it is that you do, but plan, have a plan. Have you
You have a good
seen how like
routine.
some small businesses are run, and people are just, you probably place an order online, oh, I want this, oh, come to this place, and then you go there, the service is just bare minimum.
The moment I
It's
notice that,
right.
I will intentionally tell myself that even the
Mm-hmm.
quality of the service that I'm going to get at this place
Right.
is not going to be good. And you're like,
Yeah, and even when, let's say, you attend an event
yeah,
and the people who are organizing the event are not even there on
on
time,
time.
and people just like to say, oh, Africans are never on time.
And they want to
No,
teach you on time
no,
management.
no. I think it's high time we unlearn that thing of
Yeah.
Africans are never on time.
Respect
Be
people's
Yeah,
time.
and respect other people's time, because people have, like, everybody's busy out there,
I'm
guys.
telling you, everyone
So
is.
I feel being organized is such a very important habit
Mhm.
for a high value woman, because it then doesn't give everybody access
Access
into your
to.
life. It just makes you see where you're going,
Mhm.
and it helps even planning for the future,
Mhm.
you know,
You know
easier.
where
And
you are supposed to
exactly
be at what time.
right.
And I think what you just said, it speaks into also the do not disturb feature. You're protecting your peace.
Right, you are.
And for
Mm-hmm.
me, it also speaks on, if you are high value, you have to be whole, right? You cannot give from an empty cup.
Yes.
Whether at
Mm-hmm.
work, at school, in your family, in your friendships, it means that you have to be whole. So
Right.
when you're protecting your peace, you're intentional about your time.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, at this point I need to get 8 hours of rest. So
Right.
you're not giving people access to yourself beyond 8 p.m. You are pouring into yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If it means you're going to take a long bath, you're going to pray, whatever it is, you're pouring into yourself. So, and so many people don't realize that you can't just be pouring into other people. People think that it's a good character trait.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
where when someone needs you at 1 a.m. in the morning, you are there
You're
like,
there
and people actually take pride in that.
in
Kuti,
that.
inini, any day,
Any day.
anytime, you
Yeah,
can
have you
call
seen
me.
those
I'll always.
businesses where they're like, yeah,
eh,
call me any day? I'm like, no.
Anytime. No, you cannot.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
need to protect your time. You need to protect your peace, because at the end of the day,
mm-hmm.
you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want us also to just look at what are some of the things that and like we were just talking about like the habits
Mm-hmm.
of a high
High
value woman,
value woman.
but I
Yeah.
also want to also talk about like what are some of the things that uh a high value woman you shouldn't just be found in doing certain
Doing
things and
things
like
like
yeah,
things that can actually hinder you from
yeah,
becoming
that
high
hinders you,
value
yeah,
woman.
from high
So
value
for
woman.
me, I would want to focus on
Mm-hmm.
one thing that our society has made us to believe is that being a high value woman starts with outward beauty. People are so much focused on how they look, how they dress. That's why we're having so many cases of people going to do the BBLs, the what. By all means, do you.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that will stop you from becoming a high value woman is if you idolize outward beauty.
Right, okay.
And I think there's
Mm-hmm.
a
I hear
scripture
you.
that actually talks about, beauty is
It's
vain,
vain,
something
yeah,
like
but
that.
Proverbs
So
31.
yeah, so if that will stop you from becoming a high value woman, if you
Mm-hmm.
idolize outward beauty, by no means is it bad, taking care of yourself, how you dress, how you look, but don't idolize it. The moment you do that, it means everything else takes a back seat, and you're
Mm-hmm.
just focusing on that. And if you look at that, sometimes people who focus more on their outward beauty, they do not focus on their character. They've got mean characters.
Right,
Yeah, I know
right.
this. People might actually say, but I've noticed that, and I don't
Right,
know. What
that's true.
about you?
So I think for me, one thing that would, if I'm to think of anything that would stop someone from becoming
Mm-hmm.
a high value woman,
Yeah.
for me, I think we talked about
Mm-hmm.
ignorance, and I think wanting to stay in a comfort
Mm-hmm.
zone, not wanting to grow,
Yeah.
not wanting to try something new beyond what you already are used to.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's through learning,
Mm-hmm.
like reading books, like you said, or
Yeah.
listening to podcasts or things like that, but also just being, if you stay in one area, in
Mm-hmm.
one place, you're never going to grow,
Yeah.
and so I feel like that also just hinders you. Like you have to go to certain spaces and see what other women are doing. You will be
Mm-hmm.
so amazed and you'll be like,
Yeah.
how are they doing this? Because remember, we all have 24 hours in a day, and in those 24 hours in a day, Beyonce has the same
24
24
hours,
hours
but look at her
as you
now.
do. Oprah has the same 24 hours as you.
Mm-hmm.
And so the same person you're thinking could, but because they are this, because they are that,
Mm-hmm.
they have the same 24 hours as
Mm-hmm.
you. But so I feel like also just take your time to actually want to learn and be curious and be eager to know what
Mm-hmm.
is it that separated them.
So,
What is it that
yeah,
they did
what can I
differently? What
do
did
to
they do
also?
to get to where they are?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we all, another thing is like we're filled with so much hate.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to think about, like, when we see, especially women,
Mm-hmm.
we are enemies of each
Of
other.
each other,
Like
yeah.
it's very rare when you see women applauding women, because it's always, why is she single and she has all this money? There's a
Definitely a
sugar
sugar
daddy
daddy.
behind and sponsoring this lifestyle.
Yeah.
But instead of that, you could actually take time to actually sit down with her, have a conversation, and want to learn from her. Wait,
Yeah.
wait.
How are you
What
doing it?
Fambisa say, how are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that will be it for me.
And I think just to wrap it up, I want to read something that
Mm-hmm.
Oprah said with
Mm-hmm.
regards to being a high value woman.
Right.
She said, too many of us have forgotten to own our worth. We were told to be polite, to be peaceful, not to take up too much
Mm-hmm.
space. And somehow we began to see our value based on how others saw us instead
Wow.
of how we see ourselves. Your worth is not up for debate, it is not a negotiation. Um, so honestly, being a high value woman is not up for negotiation, but
Mm-hmm.
it is you that determines your worth, your value.
Right. I love that.
And
So, guys, thank you for joining us today. I hope you have learned a thing or two. See you
and
guys on our next
next
episode.
episode.
Bye.